Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. I'm Jason.
I'm Ned. I'm Ed.
I'm
See,
Ned.
I'm Ned.
I'm Geraldo.
We've been doing it one way. This is the third time. I can't say my own name.
We are not editing that.
I
like
know.
that.
I'm Ned.
I'm Ned. That's
are.
what I go by in my other life. I don't know.
We
Ned.
are leaving that one.
Wow. I'm Ned.
I'm so happy I'm here to hear that. That was great. We're here at episode 95, guys.
Did he ever get to say who he was?
He did.
I said Geraldo.
That's who he is.
No, I am.
If you
Right.
get to be Ned,
I can be Ned.
I can be anybody I want to be.
and I can be Antonio.
Yeah.
We just
Okay.
make it up.
All right, good.
Whatever. You started it, Ed.
I did.
You started it. So here we go. We're here at episode...
The only Ned I know is Ned Beatty.
I was about to say, are you talking about Ned Beatty?
Is he
Yeah.
alive?
I think so.
Is he?
Okay.
I
don't
think
know.
so.
I have a really bad thought about Ned Beatty, but I can't bring it up.
Then don't.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
You personally, I'm very angry about Ned Beatty.
Wow, man.
Let's look it up real quick.
No, please don't. We don't
The
have
bad
time.
thought? You're going to look up the bad thought I
Look it
have?
up in your mind.
We don't have time for this, Nathan.
All right, go. Then we'll keep talking.
What year
Wow.
did Network come out?
Now, speaking of... Now, see, here. Watch this segue. Watch this segue.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
Ned Beatty died June 13th of 2021.
I told you
Just
I thought he was
recently
dead.
died.
I
Just
told you
recently.
that.
Okay, you
I was
did.
thinking that.
From Louisville, Kentucky.
So how's
He
this for...
died because of Louisville, Kentucky?
Well, probably. So, as a really clever segue, Ned Beatty was a movie star, and
Star in print in quotation marks.
He
And-
was in movies.
and Nathan, you
was
just
in
dropped
Deliverance.
last Thursday your first episode of your movie podcast,
Oh, we did.
and so for
did.
those who missed out, because again,
We're not dealing with the films
They
of
talked
Ned
about
Beatty.
Deliverance and Network. And
You know, when you've got a 6-year-old in the home, you know what you need to show them. I will tell you this. I do have a crazy story that I won't tell
No.
about when I was 8 and I went to someone's house and their dad said, y'all need to watch this movie. And it was Deliverance, and I've been scarred for
Oh,
life
my
the rest of
gosh.
my life.
Wow.
sorry.
Why
Horrible
would they
experience.
do that?
They were it was
Nathan needs
chaotic.
therapy now.
I do.
So-
That's what we're working out on the Family Movie Night podcast.
So last week you dropped your first episode. We got your second episode coming up this Thursday, which is Thanksgiving Day,
Thanksgiving.
which is a great time when families are at home watching movies.
That's our idea, is to start this right up at the holiday season. It's a natural time for you to go ahead. Everyone's going to be sitting down their kids and showing them movies already. Probably movies your kids don't want to watch.
Right.
So we're going to
Exactly.
try and find some movies your kids might actually want to watch.
Exactly.
Give you some ideas. I'll tell you.
They don't want to see Jimmy Stewart.
No. I will say this one is older than people think it is, but our first one's going to be Home Alone. Came out in 1990. Is 31 years old.
Wow.
Which feels hard for a lot
Doesn't
of people
that feel
to feel.
weird?
I will say
You know how I know that? That was the year you were born.
the year
And
I was born.
I remember that because that's... I don't want to go... I don't, we don't
Thank
have
you
time.
for remembering
We don't
my
have-
birth by a Macaulay Culkin film.
Whatever it takes.
I remember that because Becky was whining about something, and I was watching Home Alone going, man, Joe Pesci is a delight. Joe Pesci. And then you came out and you kind of looked like, babies look like Joe Pesci.
Wow.
It's amazing, but that's exactly the story I was going to tell.
Whatever.
Well, there you go. So we're talking about Home Alone. I will say this, even if you think it's older, I'm very much about not going too far back to show your kids because movies don't age well. That's just
Some of 'em.
generally, most do not. This movie right here, it is by far my children. I have 4 children at home, all under the age of 9. Their favorite movie. I was telling them because in preparation, I go back and watch the movies in preparation to talk about them. And I told them, I said, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to watch this movie. And I said, now, it is about someone whose home gets broken into, and we kind of have a running joke. One of my daughters is terrified of anything that might be a scary movie, and she goes, "Daddy, I don't want to watch this." I said, "And guess what? They're gonna try and hurt the person in the house." And she goes, "No, Daddy, I don't want to watch this." And I said, and "Here's the worst part: it's a little kid that's in the home." And she goes, "Oh no!" And I said, "And he's all home alone." And one of my kids goes, hold on a second. Is this the movie? They call the movie Kevin because that's the name of the movie. Is this Kevin you're talking about? I said, it is. And there was this rapturous applause that went through my house. They were so excited. They, by far, the favorite movie. I bet we've seen it 5 times in the last 2 years. So
I think it should have been called Kevin.
it's called Kevin. They love it. So My
right.
kids are very excited. They don't understand what aftershave is. Neither will your kids, but
That's okay.
that'll be what you have to explain the most.
So
to them.
that's what you guys have to look forward to this Thursday.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Hopefully you will watch it, or one of the other movies we talk about you'll watch as a family on a movie night.
Great.
That's the ultimate goal of
So
this.
don't miss the next episode dropping in if you're listening to this on drop day, 2 days.
2 days on Thanksgiving.
On Thanksgiving Day, after you've stuffed yourself with turkey and other such things, you can listen to our podcast.
Exactly.
There you
Good
go.
job. Okay. Today, we have another special treat. If you were with us last week, you know that last 2 Sundays ago, we put a spotlight on some of the local ministries that we support here at Community Christian in our area to bring God's kingdom and love and grace into our immediate community. This past Sunday, we took a little bit of a wider look at what we're doing with ministries around the world.
Right.
And again, if you were here with us, you saw a clip of an interview that we did with one of our partners and one of the things that they are doing on the other side of the world. You saw a young lady that I'm very close to, and so I can introduce this. Her name is Bethany. Bethany and I go way back. In fact, we've been friends since we were little kids. And her mom.
Are y'all the same age?
She's like a year or two younger than me, I think.
Okay.
So, but we're
Are
very
you the
close
same
in
age as her brother?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
All
We are we're very close in age. We kind of.
Who's the same age as Ned Beatty?
I'm not going to venture a guess on that one. Okay. But anyway,
Not me.
Bethany's parents and my parents have been lifelong friends, and her parents back in 1974, I believe, left the United States to go and start a work in the nation of Indonesia,
Right.
and bring God's light and love into that nation, and it has been going strong ever since.
The largest Muslim country in the world, I believe.
It is the largest Muslim country in the world. A lot of people don't know that. Thousands of islands comprise the nation of Indonesia, but they have been on several of those, but have concentrated their life and work in just a few of those areas. And so, last week Ed was telling you he sits on the board of Coweta Force that we spotlighted last week. I sit on the board of this ministry called Java. And so I'm a part of this work, and I know Bethany pretty well. And she has started in her community, started a school which kind of bridges the gap between the Muslim community and the Christian community in their immediate neighborhood right there.
And this is the longest running supported ministry. They have been supported since day one of Community Christian.
Yes, they have.
Since day one.
Yes, we've been partners with Bethany, her father Dennis, her mom Lynn, and their entire work over there. And so at our last board meeting, I had just sat and listened to Bethany talk about a school called Fast Start that she had begun over there, and I was just amazed at some of the work being done over there, some of the bridges that they were building in that community. And so I asked Bethany, I said, would you just get on Zoom with me and let's talk about this? It was kind of fun because there was 13 hours difference between us. So basically I was at 8 o'clock at night, I was talking to someone who was just getting up the next morning. It was amazing. I told her, I said, this is my longest or distance Zoom call ever. But Bethany talked a little bit about the work that they're doing there, and just tells a few stories of some of the relationships that they've built there, and just all the great stuff. I just think she's sharp. I know I'm partial because she's a friend of mine, but man, her and her husband and her family over there just doing amazing work, along with what her father started. And so we wanted you guys to see a little bit more in depth of that interview, because you only got to see just a piece of it if you were with us on Sunday. So for the rest of the podcast, we're going to just play that interview for you and let you get a little bit more flavor of what Bethany and her family are doing all the way on the other side of the world, and how you guys, as a part of Community Christian, are supporting that. So this is the interview with Bethany. So you guys watch this, and we will be back with you next week.
Bye.
Bethany, why don't you start by why don't you just tell us a little bit about your story to start with? You are a missionary kid, and I know that comes with a story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to be in Indonesia, and a little bit about your family and about the ministry there, and how you just introduce yourself to us a little bit.
Okay. Well, like you said, I am a missionary kid, and I can't imagine my life any other way because it started out that way. I was born in Indonesia and raised here. I was raised by a family that was committed to being here long term and to making a difference here long term. They searched for places to go when they first wanted to come out in 1975 and didn't know where they were going to go. But the door that got opened up was Indonesia, despite thoughts that they were going to head to Latin America because they had both visited Latin America previously. God said, nope, not what I have in mind, not where I have planned for you to go. And so they arrived in 1975 and had worked on and off here until they retired just recently. But being a missionary kid, of course, means I grew up in two cultures and never knew really which culture I needed to fit into at the time. I joke about being a chameleon, being able to adapt to wherever I am, knowing that I need to be able to fit in Indonesia and being able to fit in America, that it's important to be true to who I am no matter where I am at, but being able to know what's culturally appropriate wherever I am. Of course, that's been challenged by moves within Indonesia because there's different cultural areas, just like the South isn't the same as the North or the West in the U.S. So learning to be a part of that, learning to adapt to cultures, languages, getting the opportunity to travel since I was young was something I really was blessed with, something I enjoyed because it meant that I had a different perspective on life and that it allowed me to know that people put the world together differently, but we're all looking for one thing, and that is a relationship with the Almighty that can change our lives.
That's awesome. Now, full disclosure, I have to say this. Bethany and I have known each other since we were little kids. Our families are quite close, and we were both very, very small when your parents started their mission work in Indonesia. So like you said, I've seen the development of the ministry over the years, and it's been amazing to see. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what went into the decision of you deciding to follow in your parents' footsteps, so to speak, and continue on in that country rather than coming back to America?
Well, when I graduated from college, I had a degree in education, and I said I wanted to go back home. But I refer to both places as home, so that's a little confusing. Yeah. But I wanted to come back to Indonesia to help because I felt like the education in Indonesia needed an opportunity. I did that for a couple of years in the capital city of Jakarta and working there. But with the pressures of the school that I was working at, I felt like it was not a good fit long term. So I returned to the U.S. and dealt with 4 years working in the public schools, which I also think is a mission field that needs to be addressed. Yeah. And teaching there and being a part of that. But when the tsunami in 2004 happened, I knew that I had the language skills, the knowledge of the culture, and the need to return to Indonesia to make a difference. And although Aceh is nothing like Java, where I grew up, I knew that I could at least make a difference and be able to be an impact there. I searched for 6 months trying to find the correct fit of where I would go. Finally ended up working with Food for the Hungry in Aceh. And with that opportunity, I was able to know that God had called me back here. I'd always said, God, I'll go anywhere, but I want to go with a partner. And God said, no, you need to trust me. I'm your partner and go where you're at. So.
And when did you meet your husband, James?
He also joined the relief efforts in Aceh. And so
I thought that's where y'all met.
We were both called to be a part in helping an area that was devastated by the 2004 tsunami. I mean, I arrived 6 months after the tsunami, and what I remember is walking through the area where there were what looked like fish ponds. They weren't fish ponds, they were foundations of houses.
Wow.
And just the rubble and the destruction that was there. And so we both felt a need to do that. My husband is a civil engineer. James came to help rebuild the infrastructure. And as an educator, I wanted to help rebuild teachers and students, that they would be excited about learning and life again, not just focused on the disaster and the horror that they went through. I mean, we did a retreat in trauma counseling with teachers where we worked with a teacher that talked about walking down the street with her holding her daughter's hand and her daughter being swept away. An 8-year-old, she couldn't hold on to her. I mean, just stories like that, story after story. Another guy we worked with talked about lifting a baby up and putting him on the roof. He says, I don't know whose baby it was, but I tried help. All I could do was put her on the roof to keep her away from what was happening. So we met there he arrived about 9 months after the tsunami. I came after 6 and worked side by side he worked with a Christian NGO as well. So working with the Christian NGO community, we were able to worship together regularly, because being in Aceh is 99% Muslim. Okay. And they implement Sharia law. And so it is a very strict area. And we knew that in order for us to be able to maintain our strength in an area like that, even doing just relief work and building the basic groundwork for relationships, would require constant communion and fellowship with believers as well. Wow. And so we had a group of Christian Samaritan's Purse, Food for the Hungry, World Relief, Tear Fund, all gathered together regularly to build each other up and to be a part of that. Wow. And that's where we met, was at one of those gatherings. So. Okay.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about the religious makeup of where you are. Tell us more about, because I'm assuming a lot of people who are watching this, they may not have a lot of knowledge about Indonesia as a nation, and certainly not the specific area where you are serving right now. So can you give us a little bit of the flavor of the culture there, and just what people over here in the United States just don't know about where you are and the culture and the religion and that kind of thing?
When people ask, where's Indonesia? Sometimes they go, is it anywhere near Bali? Well, actually, Bali is part of Indonesia, yes. Not the other way around, not Indonesia being part of Bali. So it is basically halfway around the world from where you're at the on the tropics. Where I currently live is in the city of Ambon. The city of Ambon is on the island of Ambon as well, and it is an area that is actually known to be where the gospel entered Indonesia. Wow. But the fact is, it used to be a great stronghold for Christianity here. Mm. But in 1999, there was a religious conflict. They claim it's religious, but my husband and others often believe that it is more political, social conflict. Okay. Under the disguise of religion. But it ended up causing Indonesia, the area where I live is probably 60% Christian, 40% Muslim. Okay. But as a nation, Indonesia is about 85% Muslim. And unfortunately, more and more radicals are emerging in this, and they are being used to try to have greater influence in the nation as a whole. Whereas, like I said, in Aceh, where we met, is Muslim Sharia and 99% Muslim. Where we are now, where my husband is from, had religious conflict. It used to be that in Indonesia, the principle is, there's 5 religions. that are recognized in this country, or 6 now that are recognized in this country, and you have to have a religion. You may not be agnostic, you may not be atheist. And if you have, because of that, it causes a divide. But it used to be, they teach tolerance is taught in schools and supposed to be enforced, that you have to respect whatever people's religion is, but you may not influence people to change their religion.
Okay.
And so it's a country that is truly trying to seek religion, not necessarily God, would be what I would say. And where we live in Amboin, like I said, the conflict happened in 99, where there were burning of churches, burning of jihadists came into this area under the support by politicians to try to change the composition of this area from a majority Christian. It used to be 80% Christian, now to about 60% Christian. So there has been a great influx of people of the Muslim faith particularly. And they try to make the rules and give priority to the majority rather than the minority in the nation. So if you're a minority, as I said, 85% in Indonesia, 50% are of other religions. And so the majority is the one respected. Whereas in the US, we've got a minority is the most important. In Indonesia, it's the other way around.
Yeah. So I imagine that in just the makeup and the culture, as you just described it, certainly does change the way you have to live out the gospel in your own life. Tell us about what you would see as your approach to living out the life of a Christ follower in that culture.
Most importantly, as in anywhere, you've got to show love. I mean, that's the foundation of the gospel, is love. If you love people, if you befriend people, they can't say you can't talk to your friend about what you're passionate about and what you love. Just like they can't say you can't pray in schools. I mean, they may not allow you to lead a prayer in school, but I know when I taught public school in the States, I sat at my desk and prayed for several students throughout the day.
Sure.
So there are things that we do that we have to, showing love, making sure that our life is different from even those that claim to know Christ but aren't really living it out. That's the thing, is you grow up in the area where we're supposed to be the majority, but they are more steeped in tradition than in a relationship with Christ. It's like, oh yeah, everybody has to go to church on Christmas and Easter, and you have to do these activities. There's this worship service this day, traditions. Oh, you can't go to worship without offering, things like that just become more a legalistic relationship than a true relationship with Christ. And so trying to show that it's different.
What's so interesting is I would say 98% of that answer that you just gave would be the same answer that I would give for someone living as a Christian in America. And I think a lot of us, we think because of the religious makeup is different and the culture is different, then there is such a radically different approach that we should take. And it really, like you said, it's not that different if you stay rooted in the gospel, which is love. I think that's such a great insight for us to have,
Definitely. We can't do anything without him transforming ourselves and then us sharing that.
Absolutely. That is so great. Well, you mentioned this a little bit already. You alluded to education, and I wanted to talk a little bit about your school. I know that is probably your greatest passion. And so I would love to hear, and I know our people would love to hear more about your school, Fast Start, and what that is and how it came to be.
Well, arriving in Amboin, I was concerned about education, as I am about education throughout Indonesia, because the principles of education are rote memory and a lot of authoritarian teachers that don't encourage thinking a lot of times, and I want to transform that. I had the opportunity to work with Save the Children here in Amboin, doing child-friendly schools. And when I started doing that, training teachers about remembering that education is about the students and not about what the teacher gets out of it, and that we need to be in it for making a difference in their lives, I learned that corporal punishment and ridicule were a regular part of education in this province.
Oh, wow.
And when I learned that, knowing that I had children myself that needed to start school soon, I began going, okay, God, what am I supposed to do? I can't send them to this, particularly in kindergarten, and think about them facing that. And so that was one of the motivating factors. The other thing is I wanted a way to build relationships between the Christian and the Muslims that had been separated because of the conflict. They used to live side by side. Now we have Christian villages, Muslim villages, or neighborhoods in this town. And because of that, I'm like, if they don't interact together, they'll never learn to trust each other, never learn to have a relationship with each other. And if we can't destroy the stigmatism that you can only be friends with Christians, then you can't make a difference. And so when I knew Kiara was about to start kindergarten, I'm like, okay, we're going to start this. And I started a bilingual school, also wanting to make sure that my children had a strong foundation in English so that they could fit in wherever they were, because that wasn't available in other schools here in town. But also developing their character and building relationships. So that I always say we plant seeds of truth in our character building classes. We don't necessarily say that honor your mother and father so that you may live long. We say that, but we don't say where it's found. Because if we say the reference, they'll be go, oh no. But if you say honor your father and mother, oh, like, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah. We can accept that.
That's right.
And so we really try to make sure that we are teaching foundations of truth from a young age and developing their appreciation for that and making them friends. Kids don't care what somebody else looks like, particularly when they're 3, 4, and 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They just care that he's my friend, he's nice to me, and we enjoy each other.
Yes.
They don't know anything about religion other than what they're told at home. So they don't ask that question. And so they're able to build the friendships and develop the trust from a young age. Mm-hmm. And so that was a goal of being in an area that we could help build relationships with kids that were from various areas. And so we wanted to start quality education without corporal punishment, with an English basis to attract people, and then build relationships between Christian and Muslims so that they would feel comfortable. And I never would evangelize a child because I wouldn't want somebody to approach my child.
Sure.
But build relationships with the parents that we might have a chance to share.
And tell us how that's going, or how you're seeing the Muslim and Christian families come together in your school.
We have been blessed with about 12 Muslim families, and that's not very many over the last few years, but because we've had over 200 students at one point. Now we're only at 175. Mm-hmm. But with the parents that have come, have requested, can you start an elementary school so that my kid can continue? They want the education. They want the value of being that. I had one family that her daughter graduated from finished Fast Start and has continued to elementary school. Her son is now here. She's Muslim, but she was always with all the moms, hanging out, spending time. In Indonesia, it's common for the moms to wait on the children outside while the children are in school. So she would sit out there with all the Christian moms and have conversations, and they would go to the mall together. They would spend time together doing things. And she really did have a trust, and still does. But COVID has kind of made that less interactions at this point. And that's the hardest thing right now, is we don't have as many interactions with our parents because it's all online.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I know just like every school around the world has been affected by this pandemic. I mean, tell us about how it has affected your community and more specifically your students and families there.
We've had a decrease in number for one thing. Like I said, we were over 200 and now we're only at 175. Because we are not considered an inexpensive school. We are probably for middle class, upper middle class in Indonesia by the prices we charge. But we are also the value in sending children that are under 5 to school has decreased because of the pandemic. They're like, I don't have time to do the younger kids. I've got to help my older children with school because they are required to be in school. 4 and 5-year-olds, they can wait, particularly the 3 and 4-year-olds. So our decrease in numbers has been particularly in 3 and 4s. We have about the same number in our 5-year-old class because they know they're preparing for elementary school and they want to have a foundation. We're also all online school and have been for over a year and a half.
Wow.
Which, imagine teaching 3, 4, and 5-year-olds online. My son is 3 and he's in school, but a lot of times he's running away from the video and I have to bring him back to sit down. It's just the nature of the age.
Yes.
And being able to interact with people, they are able to have an interaction as this. Education in general, I think, has decreased because of the FaceTime that we have. Okay, it's online. It's not the same quality. A teacher can't come over and hold a child's hand to teach them how to write correctly. And mom and dad don't necessarily have the patience to do it. And they're like, you're supposed to know how to do this. They don't understand the process of a child growing, learning. Or they're embarrassed that their son or daughter doesn't have the same skill set as another child. So they want to give the answers to their kids. Oh, here, hold this one up. This is the correct answer. This is what it is. They're whispering answers from across the room. So education online is a challenge.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I think we've all seen that. You know, how are the restrictions in Indonesia these days? I know last time you and I spoke, when you were in the States, there was still a lot of restrictive measures being in place. Has any of that lifted recently?
Where I am at right now, we're still required to wear masks when we're outside in public. Other than that, most things are pretty free at this point, back to normal. But it seems to be that there's not a lot of COVID cases in Ambon right now. So there's been a big decrease. The only thing is travel is limited. Children under 12 are not allowed to travel outside of their area right now because of the COVID. They want to try to protect them because they are not vaccinated. Vaccinations are basically required of people at this point, or very strongly encouraged because of the pandemic. But not everybody is willing, just like in the U.S.
Yeah. So again, we're a lot alike.
Yes, people are people the world over.
Absolutely, no doubt. Okay. So you may have already talked a little bit about this, but I'd just love to hear just from your heart. What are you seeing as God? What has God done through your school? What you would consider His greatest victories in these past few years?
Well, I am extremely grateful to God for providing me with a great group of teachers. They are passionate about what they do. They love the kids and they really have a heart for working for this. I was always a little hesitant about hiring somebody that was not a believer. Last year, that changed.
Yeah.
I hired Miss Elsa. She is Muslim. She was raised in a Christian area, though, and she grew up here. She was not living separate from the Christians, so she knows a little bit more. But she is quite devout. She says her prayers at school. She wears the head covering that is quite long. But it's an awesome opportunity to share with her. Every morning we have devotions together as a staff, and we share the word. Every morning that we are at school, that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the days that they're online doing school education, I send out verses. And I know at least she's getting to hear the scripture every day, whether she applies it or she reads it. I can't force her that, but it's an opportunity to share. Yeah. And I love that we are at least being able to pour into her relationship right now and to build her. Who knows, she might be the key to the whole area where she lives, because she lives in a very radical area in the town now. So it's a great opportunity there. I'm grateful for the students that we've had that were willing to trust Fast Start with the education of their children, even though they knew at that time my teachers were all Christian and they knew that, So wow. I've had the 12 families that sent their children here. I've been blessed with that, and that we still have the opportunity to build their relationships with them. But so we're seeing slowly that people are beginning to trust us more. And that's the most important thing, is building the trust first, building the relationship in the community, and then knowing that we love their kids no matter who they are.
Yes.
And that's the other thing, is a lot of schools in Indonesia test kids to get in if they're private schools like us. We don't. I'm like, you don't test kids. They come in, you take them where they are, and you take them to where they need to go.
I love that. That is such a great approach. And I'm so glad you brought up Elsa, because I know you and I had already talked about her the last time we spoke, and I could just tell then, your face lights up when you talk about the relationships that you've been able to build with her and with that greater community. So that is I love that. That is such a God story. So thank you for sharing that with us. What can we do as a congregation all the way here on the other side of the world to help you? What can we do what do we need to pray for when we think of you and your school and the entire mission that you guys have over there in Indonesia?
We would really appreciate prayers for the restrictions on education to be lifted. Education online is very difficult, as I said, and at this point, there's no indication that it's going to end anytime soon for the younger children. They're talking about middle school and above that have been vaccinated being able to go back to school. But that's not our area where we're working. So being able to do that we would be able to attract more people from the Muslim community to be a part, that they would trust us, that we are here, that we are making a difference, and that Elsa might be a part of that. With last month, Elsa entered a video competition on teaching creatively, and she won, representing Fast Start. And the teachers in the community were like, "Oh, we didn't know you had a Muslim teacher." I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, wow." And so they were shocked by that too, that just changing that mindset, but just being able to continue to know that that we're shining a light and we're making a difference. I'd also ask prayers for my teachers. A lot of my teachers are the breadwinners in their families.
Okay.
And their finances have been tighter because of COVID. Some families are without employment other than their daughter that works at Fast Start or things like that. And just the importance of making sure I invest in them, I build them up, but that they also are able to be a blessing to their families and minister there, that they have such a heart for that, even within their own families. But
yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. That gives us a lot to pray on. We certainly will do that. So thank you, Bethany, for spending this time with us. And I just want to say on behalf of Community Christian and our church family here, we have we've been behind you the entire time, and even though we may not see each other very often, we are connected, and we are so proud of what's going on over there, and we just thank you for your shining that light into that part of the world and allowing us to be a part of that and partner with you. So thank you.
It's a privilege to be here, and it's all for God's glory and His work here.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much.